always, especially for the last minute Thursday night gathering. So it's normal. It's basically going to be the similar ideas to what I usually say, but connected to Lag BaOmer. So at the Pesach of the Idra Rabbah, which was not said on Lag BaOmer, the Idra Rabbah was the first Idra. It was the great gathering with Rashbi and his followers, his 10 followers, his 10 Talmidim. So at the Idra Rabbah, 3 Talmidim died. 3 Talmidim were mistalik. They weren't able to handle the sodos that Rashbi was Megala. And then on Lag BaOmer, on Rashbi's deathbed, was the Idra Zuta, was the small granary, was the small gathering compared to the Idra Rabbah. So in the Hakdama to the Idra Rabbah, so if you look in the first, we'll just read the whole thing. So it's Kanshu Chavraya L'Bei Idra. So the Chavra Kadisha, right, the holy Chavra, the holy gathering of Rashbi's Talmidim came and gathered in this granary, in the storehouse, in the field. Malbushin Shrayan, they were garbed in shields. Saifei V'Ramche B'Yodchan, they had their swords and their spears in their hands. So the Ramchal in his Sefer Adir B'Marom has pages and pages explaining what these tikkunim are. Izdarzu B'Tikkunaychon, they girded themselves with their tikkunim. Be'eta, B'Chachmasa, B'Suklasa, B'Daisa, B'Chezu, B'Yodin, B'Raglin, which are connected to Esher Spheros. Amlichu Alaychon Laman, De'Bereshusei Chayim Moisa. They were makabel upon themselves, Al Malchus Shemayim, the person, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is in charge of life and death. The Migzar Milin Dikshay. They davened that their words should be truthful. Milin Dikadisha El Yoinin Saislahu. The words that the holy Malachim were going to reveal to them, that the holy Neshamos of Avram Avinu, of Moshe Rabbeinu, were going to reveal to the Chavra. V'chadan L'mishmelahu. And they sat down to listen, and to know it. So Yosef Rabbi Shimon. So Rabbi Shimon sits down in the middle, and you have to imagine this is a granary, this is a storehouse. And each Machaber, Lefi Mahalalo, has his own reason as to why these Chidushim, these Tikkunim of Atik and Arich, the highest Tikkunim that were Miskala Alidei Rashbi, had to dafka be in a field. It has to be while traveling. It has to be in a place that's not a place. It has to be in a place that's removed from Olam Hazeh. So Yosef Rabbi Shimon, the Bachi BaOmer, and he started sobbing. So Yosef Rabbi Shimon, and everything, the Ramchal, every movement that Rashbi does, I have a 2-volume set of Svarim, which is 300 pages each volume. It's called Adir B'Melucha. For whatever reason, I never saw it on websites. I got it in Eretz Yisrael. It's shirim that someone gave on the first, I would say, 11 lines of the Idra Rabbah about just the Hakdama of what Rashbi did, sitting and crying and raising his hands. And he's Masbir Sodos Elyonim. It's through the Ramchal, the Gra. It's an incredible sefer. But this Hakdama is fundamental to what Rashbi was going to say. So Yosef Rabbi Shimon Bacha. Rabbi Shimon sat and he cried, BaOmer, Vai Galina, woe to me if I reveal what I'm about to say. Vai Loi Galina, and woe to me if I don't reveal what I'm about to say. Chavraya dahavu taman ashtiku. So the Chavra, who were all excited, and we're all sitting, finally realized that Rashbi, their leader over here, is going through something right now, and he's preparing himself for something, so they were silent. So come Rabbi Abba, Rabbi Abba, who was the only person that Rashbi gave Rishus to write. He was the only person that was allowed to be near the deathbed, along with Rabbi Elazar, Rashbi's son, by his deathbed in the Idra Zuta. V'Amrlei. So I forgot to print it here, but he says, Ini chakaimei, if it's good in front of you, Maiksiv, let me bring a pasuk. It says, Soid Hashem li'reov, ubrisa lahidiyam. So the secret of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's secret to his spiritual ones, and his bris, and the connection, the intimacy with them, is there to be known. And Rashbi, after hearing that, decided to be Megala the Sodos. So the Nakuda that I want to speak about is really what the Nakuda of Rashbi is, what the Nakuda of Sodas HaTorah is, because Rashbi is, although he wasn't the first, he's one of the main players in the revelation of Sodas HaTorah, of the Sasam Daraisa, of the hiddenness of the Torah, as well as being a pillar, as well as being one of the most fundamental Tanoim in the Hishtalshalos of Torah Nigla, in the Niglos HaTorah. Like we say that the Araisa and HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Knesset Yisrael are Sasam Begalia, and each Sasam, each hidden part is connected to the revealed part of the other. So the Sasam of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the hidden, ineffable part of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is connected to the ineffable part of the Torah, which is connected to the ineffable part of Klal Yisrael. So Rashbi, in his process of revealing these things, was revealing what Pnimiyas HaTorah was. Why? Before revealing what Sod is, he had to cry. What this crying was it a sobbing of a feeling that his Talmidim weren't worthy to hear what he had to say? Was it that the secrets of Torah, the innermost chambers of Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's interactions with the world? Is it that you have to be a certain way to understand it, or was he crying about something else? So, the Admor HaEmtzai, so we've quoted before in these Chaburas from Rav Hillel Paracher's Perish on the Admor HaEmtzai on Shar Yichud Ve'emunah, where he writes about that a person can only be zocheh to Sodas HaTorah, to understanding the secret. And I'm not going to try and define the word secret. We'll see at the end with a keta from Levinas. We'll see what exactly secret means, or what it can't mean. But the Admor HaEmtzai understands a little bit of what Rashbi was doing here with his bechia, with his crying. So the underline, we'll start with the underline. V'hinei yesh bechia l'mal mizu. So beforehand, before this Nakuda, Admor HaEmtzai was talking about the bechia that comes when a person is mesorer himself with mariras, when a person sits and does a tikkun hanefesh and tries to recognize how far he is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the richuk that he has, the omek harichuk of the neshama elikus from its shayresh elyona, the richuk, the distance between the or and the or, the spark of the light and the source of the light, and that distance only could give birth to crying and a shatteredness and a brokenness of feeling how failed am I at my purpose in life, how difficult has it been for me to connect, and how difficult will it be for me to reconnect. And from that mariras, from that bitterness, which is a tshuva dika bitterness, which is a shibron halev, which is a breaking of the heart in order to rebuild it, so a person breaks out in bechi. And that's, a lot of the psukim can be explained, bechi yavo, that through tears and through the tears of tshuva, a person will come close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that's the bechia. That's the bechia of a Baal Tshuva. And that's an understandable bechia. We've all had times in our lives where tears come out like that. Those are like the tears of Purim, where a person feels, I want to be a certain way, but I can't be that way. So therefore my tears are going to try and create that bridge, that gesher between my ideal self and my real self. But at the end of the day, the tears are just tears. They're crying over the pain of the distance. But the Admor HaEmtzai explains differently. He says, V'hinei yesh bechia l'mala mizu. There's a different type of bechia, which does not stem from chesronos or mariras. V'hu haba me'he'eder ha'hasaga, machmas oitzem ha'fla'as v'havdalas ha'erech, b'pnei shelo yachilu kli moicha. There's a bechia, says the Admor HaEmtzai, the Mittler Rebbe. He explains that there's a certain bechia that comes when a person tries to grasp something, whether it be intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, when a person has an idea in front of him and he's attempting not to remember the idea, not to explain the idea to other people, because as we'll see, Rav Kook later on says that if we're gauging Chachmas HaSod, if we're gauging the Pnimius HaTorah by how many people could talk about the pratim of the Giluyim of the Arizal and the Olamos and all the worlds, so then we have no limit to that. There are a lot of people who know it. But if we're trying to really understand what Sod is, if we're trying to really understand the Pnimius of Rashbi, then there's Yechidei Segula. There's Yechidei Segula. And there's Mechtavim all over the place. The Slonimer's father, the Nesiv Shalom's father, the Beis Avram wrote. He says, if you're asking me, he wrote in a Mechtav, he said, if you're asking me what Kabbalah is, what Pnimius HaTorah is, what Sodos HaTorah are, what the secret is, basically what the secret is, what is it that rumbles beneath the text, beneath the Torah, beneath what we're taught, that is so fundamental to our inner lives, our secret lives as Jews? What is it that we're actually trying to give over? So he says, if you think it's what the Arizal wrote, then you could go to any Beis Medrash here and you have people who are Bakiyim in Chachmas Arizal and they don't get it. And Rav Chaim Vital, in his famous Hakdama to Eitz Chaim, he basically, it's a hesped for the Arizal, and he's basically asking a question. He says, the Arizal promised us that if we learned his Torah, and if we learned Sodos HaTorah, like the Tikkunei Zohar say, that Bahai Safri Yafkin Megalusa, that through learning the Svarim of Rashbi, by learning the Svarim, the Torah of the Arizal, who is a Mashiach ben Yosef Bedorah, by learning those, Mashiach should come. So Rav Chaim Vital is kind of, he says, it's my 30th birthday, and I'm completely broken by the fact that where is Mashiach, and what is not taking place? What are we not doing properly? The Arizal promised us, he left us already, so what are we supposed to do? And there are those who want to understand that as they were learning Chachmas Arizal, they were learning Pnimius HaTorah, they were learning Sodas HaTorah, but what's missing? What's the Sod of the Sod? What's the Neshama that's missing? So the Sod is not the vessel of what the Arizal was Megala. And we'll see there's Machloksim about what the nature of that vessel was, but there's a Sod, there's a secret, there's an innermost something that's supposed to rumble forth and speak to a person through learning these things. And that, when we're unable to grasp that in a verbal way, or when we're unable to label it, when we're unable to actually even speak it out to ourselves, or grasp what it is, that gives birth to this bechia that the Mittler Rebbe is talking about.
Is it even something? Is it intellectual? Because it must not be.
It's not an intellectual thing. It's not intellectual. It's what it will be is, because it can't be described, is what we're going to see. At the end of the day, Ashrei ha'oimdim al soidecha. Ashrei, praiseworthy are those who are still standing guard over your secret. It's still Rashbi's secret. It's always been Rashbi's secret and will always be Rashbi's secret, because Rashbi was a Yid, Rashbi was a Jew, he was a Kaddish Elyon who had a secret, and he was trying to reveal that secret to the world. It's the Ani Adati Torah. It's not intellectual, it's not spiritual, it's just that there is a void. There is an absolute void that could be infinitesimal, but for us as human beings, as creations, means that it's infinite as well, a void between creation and the Creator. It's the same idea. It's the tshuka that will be born out of the halal, out of that space, that vacant space, which is the place, that potential space that Donald Winnicott speaks about. We've mentioned these ideas, but it's that space that's untraversable. It's untraversable, and that's where the Soid HaPnimi, that's where the innermost secret of each and every individual, of each and every prat takes place, and it can't even be described, it can't even be felt intellectually, intuitively. It just happens to a person. As Rav Kook will say, it's makusher to the atzmiyus ha'adam. It's makusher to the etzem of the person.
Existentialism?
No, it's not. I don't think it's existentialism. Existentialism operates in a completely different manner. Existentialism operates with the understanding that there's no... What do you mean?
I mean...
The totza'ah is similar. The totza'ah, the outcome of how a human being is going to approach things, might be similar to the end result of existentialism. But existentialism starts off with the recognition that existence precedes essence, that the bare existence is what we have, and that all essences, all meanings are what we try and create for ourselves. So at the end of the day, those meanings will fail, and therefore we're left with the void. But Rashbi is, God forbid, saying that there is a God, and there is a Kedusha that is within everything. But the nature of that Kedusha is that it's ungraspable. We're not saying that the world is void of anything. Just like Rabbi Nachman says about the Chalal HaPanui, that the Chalal HaPanui is not Chalal at all. The Chalal HaPanui is Malay in the greatest sense. Yeah, but even the Chalal HaPanui, the fullness of the emptiness of God's vacancy is very different, and it's the words fail. And this is the
to
words
use like a
themselves fail.
Cook-esque title, it would be like holy existentialism, or like Kedusha existentialism.
Yeah, the kalim of existentialism, I think, could most definitely be revived. I mean, depends who you're asking. Sartre was not... Sartre was like the most radical of the existentialists, and he's the one who coined that term, that essence, that existence precedes essence. But if you're talking Kierkegaard's existentialism... Yeah, if you look more to like the religious existentialists. Yeah, totally. I think they were tapping into something that was significant, very significant, in the sense that at the end of the day, the void... And we're not talking about distance, we're not talking about quantity or even quality. It's infinitesimal and infinite at the same point, because it's beyond space, it's beyond time, it's just the nature of what a secret is. And we'll see that this has always been what Chachmas HaKabbalah is. The Arizal created Kalim, the Arizal was Zocha through Ruach HaKodesh to be Megala vessels. The Torah of Rashbi were the vessels that serve to carry this concept, to carry the concept of the secret. When we open up those vessels, when we open up those concepts, we come to this concept of the sod, we come to the concept of the secret. So when we recognize this, that's the bechia that the Mittler Rebbe is talking about. Hine yesh bechia lamala mizu, v'hu haba me'heder ha'asaga, comes from the inability and the lack of grasping it, machmas oitzem hafla'as v'havdalas ha'erech, because of the fundamental hafla'a, wonderment. Heschel spoke about this all the time.
Radical amazement.
It's radical amazement.
So is he crying over himself?
It's not clear. You'll see a mimer from the Zohar that he brings about Rabbi Akiva, which is just, what it does for me, it creates feelings that I don't know what to do with, because it's not telling me where these tears should go or where they should come from. But you'll see what Rabbi Akiva did. I mean, if you're reading this by yourself, I was reading this at Chazar Sashas and like a boring Shabbos davening, And I was mishtomim when I read about this just one mimer from Rabbi Akiva. Because it begins to, you understand the Chevra Kadisha of Rashbi and Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Meir. All these people were operating with this sod, and they were carrying within themselves. They were vessels of the sod of what every Yid is zocha to, what every Jew is zocha to, because that's the nature of the secret. That's the nature of Pnimius. So Havdalah Sa'erech. Havdalah Sa'erech means, relatively speaking, it's completely separate. Erech means that there's an erech. If there's a relationship between something, it means that there's erechim, there's a relationship. Havdalah Sa'erech means that it's completely of a different type. It's not that it's too lofty for me to understand or that I'm too dumb to understand it. It's that in and of itself, it's a completely transcendent idea. But at the same point, it's important to note that this is not transcendence in the sense that it has completely removed from the human subject, that it's completely removed from our ability to even ever interact with it, because radical transcendence is something that's completely removed, and a person can, the issue with speaking about a transcendent like that is that by virtue of speaking about it, you're already connecting to it, so it kind of negates the transcendence of it. This is an imminent transcendence. It's a transcendence, it's a removal that's present in the person's life. The sod is not so far removed in a radical distance that I can't interact with it or be aware of it. It's something that manifests itself in my daily life, but that I can't touch. So it's imminently transcendent. It's present in my life. It's like the sovev within the mamala. There's the mamale kolamen, which is immanence, which is grasping something. There's the sovev kolamen, which is radical transcendence, which is the kedusha sa'elokus that operates from the godly perspective, where human beings are batul and bevutul b'tachlis habitul, where they have no presence before God. And then there's a sovev within the mamala, which is the Ratzah HaKadosh Baruch Hu Lios Ladir Petachtonim, to bring Soviv Kalam and to bring this concept of wonderment and transcendence into the vessels of immanence, where the person, the subject himself, can interact with this distance and this secret that he can't describe, but at the same point he could be aware that it's impossible for him to describe.
And that's a source of radical amazement?
I think
That's Pnimius Torah. Radical amazement is Pnimius Torah.
I think so. I mean, Heschel was
a mystic.
He was a Vada mystic, but he wasn't. I don't think he was. Yeah, I mean, the Baal Shem Tov himself is just a Hamshacha. Every shlav in the Hishtalshalos of Torah Hasod is just a new ha'amaka in trying to create new kalim for this content, and the kalim speak to each generation. I mean, Rav Kook was doing the same thing. They're all hamshachos. That's why Chiddush is aser.
That's why all these people
all these people are vessels. Yeah. What they're trying to give over, and that's why every revolution, a spiritual revolution, fails at the end, because it's ineffable at the end of the day, and a person is not meant to be dola umashka from the leaders. He's not meant to take and regurgitate what they are, because a person who could regurgitate Chachmas Arizal, it's not a chiddush. There were a lot of people, a lot of maskilim, a lot of rasham, Shapsai Svi, knew Kabbalah Arizal really, really well. He knew it very well, and he utilized it for his own purposes. So a person needs to be a kli ro'oi to understand the sod of it. The Emek HaMelech says, the Emek HaMelech, who was the Mechaber, a very important Kabbalistic sefer, comes after the Arizal a little bit. So he writes, the Emek HaMelech writes that we generally speak about the Pardes HaTorah, which is Pshat, Remez, Drush, and Sod, the four chambers of understanding textually what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is trying to tell us. And he says, but the Pardes could really be flipped into the Pardasan Shel Tzadikim, the orchards, the holy orchards in the valleys of the Tzadikim. And what's the nun of Pardasan? That's the Neshama. That's the Sod of the Sod. That's the Razin de Razin, the secret of the secret. That at the end of the day, even within the vessels of secret, there's a deeper secret that opens up, and that deeper secret is what's trying to be what I'm trying to talk about, or what I'm trying to say. That the Chachmas HaSod and the Pnimius HaTorah is what, the revelation of that is what makes Rashbi cry. Because he recognizes that it's so difficult to try and give this over to Talmidim, but it's so necessary. Vai Galina, how can I possibly attempt to diminish my own personal aniyah dati, like Rabbi Nachman says, my own personal connection to this feeling, which is so personal, which is so different than anyone else could feel, but at the same point, vayi lo galina. I need to, because there's also hamshacha, there's also a necessity for the kalim to the oros. So let's get through this Mitler Rebbe. So he says, "Mipnei shelo yachilu klimocho," because
please take us on a journey. You're taking us on a big journey here.
Because the
take
vessels,
us to the promised land, Joey. Bring us home. Bring us home safe, okay?
because the vessels of his mind can't contain them. Kemu zalgu einav dema'us to Rabbi Akiva b'sodos amukos. Like the Zohar says that when Rabbi Akiva would listen to Sodos Amukos from the Mesifta De'ilah, when he would listen to the secrets, when he learned in Mesifta Derakia, his eyes would pour out tears. Not because he was sad, not because he felt distant, but just because that was the natural reaction to hearing such lofty ideals about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, lofty ideas about the world, about godliness. Besodos Amukos, he would sob, but not because he felt far, but because he understood that from this Havdalah, from this absolute distance, that all he could do was cry. It was just an expression of, it's like Bechia Shel Simcha, or
crying in itself is a closeness.
Yeah. It's the
Tikkunei
Zohar
closer.
The Tikkunei Zohar in Tikkun Hey. In Tikkun Hey, it's also medrash, but it says that on Yom Sheni Shel Abriya, Kadosh Baruch Hu put the Rakia into the world, and he separated the Mayim Elyonim and the Mayim Tachtonim. The Mayim Elyonim refer to the realm of Kedusha, the realm of godly presence. The Mayim Tachtonim represent the plane of existence, the plane of humankind, of all creation. And the Tikkunim say, the Baal Tikkunim says, he writes that, so the Mayim Tachtonim are boichin, the lower waters are always constantly crying, and they're saying, Anan boi lemaheve kadma malka. We want to come close to the face of the king. We want to constantly express our need to come close to the face of the king. That they're always yearning, the Tachtonim are always yearning to traverse this radical distance between themselves and the Mayim Elyonim. And their promise, they said, whatever that means, that there will be a connection, and it's all be'erch and it's relative, because la'asilavo, the giloy that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to be magala to tzaddikim and to Am Yisrael, is also going to be separate, because there's a halacha psuka that kedushasi l'mala mikdushaseichem. But relative be'erach, the kedusha that we know now, it'll be considered full yediyah. But there will always be that makom of sveikos. This was the first Chabura I gave here, was the sveikos d'reish l'osida, the highest place, and that's the Purim connection.
The loneliness.
On a practical level, this is the loneliness of all the tikkunim, all the privation, all the solitude that the Arizal and Rav Chaim Vital and Rashbi demanded of his Talmidim, is not because that they were trying to create some social construct of masters of secrets, but it was because of the content itself that it demanded that the person learning this would be lonely, because there's a loneliness in it, there's a bedidus in it, there's a yashav bada. Yeah, it's Rav Soloveitchik's
the lonelier you are, the closer you are to God.
It came full circle.
Yeah, it's all
the Rav used to say that the lonelier you are, that means you're doing the right thing.
I could really bring it full circle. Stein's biography.
So he's all chapter one.
Yeah.
That was a really sad chapter.
And it's not,
and therein lies the legacy.
Right.
Yeah.
But Rav Soloveitchik writes in the beginning of Lonely Man of Faith, that he says, I'm not lonely by your normal comparisons of being popular, because I have a lot of friends, I have a lot of students, and I have a name. But I'm lonely on a more existential, ontological level, that will always be a fundamental distance. And this is not necessarily true only to, everything is a secret, B'sof Davar. And we'll see Levinas. Levinas was so makusher. However you want to say that he learned it from his Rebbe, and his Rebbe was Monsignor Shoshani. I just read,
who was he's close to Rav Kook somehow.
Yeah. Ala B'tzal Nor.
Yeah. It's a vagabond.
Whoever he was, it's pashut, and it's clear that he was able to teach Levinas Sodas HaTorah. Levinas was a litvak in the sense that he writes all the time about Nefesh HaChaim. So even if all he read was Nefesh HaChaim, which is, there's books and books about him and Rav Abelafia, but even if all he learned was the Nefesh HaChaim, that's enough to give him shaykhus to Sodas HaTorah. Levinas takes its radical alterity, this radical distance, and creates it and fundamentally bases his philosophy of ethics on that. He fundamentally bases the approach to the other person is this relationship with this transcendence that can make a person cry. When you look at the face of the other person, your first realization should be that the distance is untraversable, and that I'm a lonely subject, and that all I can do is attempt to interact in a way that's doomed to failure. And it's not depressing at all when you read Levinas' whole corpus of work, but we'll see. So, and these are the tears of Rabbi Akiva, B'sodes Amukos Shelo Yochel Kli, that he wasn't able to understand, his mind couldn't grasp these things. V'hu b'chinas hapela, stima de kol stimen. And this is the wonderment, stima de kol stimen, The Zayar uses this lashon all the time. There's sasim, there's things that are hidden, and then there's stima, they call stiman. There's that which is hidden within all that is hidden. And even when a person is zocha to understand that which is hidden, he'll open himself up and enter into the chamber of that which is hidden within that which is hidden. Tahainu ba'atzmas or ein sof. In a sense, it's the essential nature of godliness, because what he's saying here is that the essential nature of godliness is the fact that it's always going to be sasim, that kedushasi l'malam and kedushasechem. So all our talk about atzmius, and especially if the Rebbe is being mentioned, the Rebbe was so radical about atzmas and etzem HaKadosh Baruch Hu and etzem Elokus being brought down even to the world of Gashmius, which was, no one has ever said sodas like this, and ever. The Rebbe was fully in love with the concept of atzmius. Atzmusa is Baruch bringing it down. That's his essence, Kabiyachal, the essence of God, which all the previous Mekubalim, which all the previous writings of Rashbi tell us that a person could only work after the Etzem of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's the Etzem of Hashem, and then there's the revelation of Hashem. But the Rebbe said, take Efemiyad, I don't care, I'm bringing down Atzmius. But Atzmius is Stima de Kol Stimen. Even when we're talking about Etzem, we're recognizing that it's impossible to say what Etzem is. And by the way, this is all, Wolfson's book, Open Secret, is this. It's that the Rebbe's obsession with bringing down Atzmusa Yisbarach, that all of Kabbalah, all the systematic approach from Rashbi down to the later Mekubalim, to the latest Mekubalim, is an attempt to express that which is inexpressible, an attempt to reveal that which is unrevealable.
Ineffable.
And by revealing, what we're really doing is reveiling the fact. Reveiling is recovering the fact that it's always been covered. And that the only revelation of Sodas HaTorah is a revelation that the Sod can never be revealed. It's really heavy.
That's Heschel's the ineffable.
Yeah. Mamish asher bilti musag klal. Adarabba, it's the opposite. Kol shiyamik yoiter v'yoiter, the deeper and deeper a person gets into studying these ideas, yifla, he'll be more wondered. He'll think he's a baki in it, and there will always be that nakuda v'yediyah. Shemizeh davke libo doeg ubocha, and that's what brings forth these tears. She'ino barak me'oitzim ha'tainug v'ha'tshuko lahasig ve'ino yochol. It's tears that come from the pleasure and the drive and the need to attempt to grasp that which is ungraspable, and the reoccurring recognition that it's impossible to grasp what I'm trying to grasp. V'yadua shezehu ikr b'chinas haklib le'b'chinas chochmad b'razin daraisa. And we know that this is the essential fundamental vessel to ever starting to understand the secrets of Torah. Like we've written before, and this is in the name of the Baal Tanya, in the name of the Magid Mimezrich, based on the Gemara in Chagiga, which talks about being Doirish in the Meiser Merkava. One of the Tanaim there is that a person needs to basically be anxious. A person has to have worry within his heart. And that worry within his heart, the Mittler Rebbe explains, is that hakara, that I will always be unsatisfied with my approach to trying to grasp HaKadosh Baruch Hu's essential nature and the essential secret of God's presence in the world and the secret of all of reality. And that unpleasantness, that anxiety that I feel based on the absolute distance is what I need. It's a kli ra'ui to start understanding Razin Da'oraisa, to start understanding the concept of what a secret is, a holy secret is. And this is...
so the tzibruchiness has a purpose. It's a, it's tzibruchin.
Yeah, brokenness. Yeah, that's tzibruchinkeit is how Rav Hillel Paratri uses that lashon to explain what the Mittler Rebbe is saying. Tzibruchinkeit is the word he uses. It's different than Mariris. It's brokenness.
It's part of our approach to God. To be a tzibruchin, to have pieces within you that in your journey have broken pieces, shrapnel, if you will, spiritual shrapnel, and to have those pieces inside of you, and to be calling out from those pieces, and to be searching from those pieces. There's mashmos there.
That's everything the Arizal spoke about, Shir Sakelim and the
Sakelim. That was how the world was created, through Shir Sakelim.
Spiritual shrapnel, I like that.
It's a good one. So this makor is in a bunch of svarim, but I brought it from the Kol Tova Medaka, which is the Balavi Mishkan Evna. Balavi Mishkan Evna, he says, Nichnas Yain, that's a sod. I thought to him, kasher to what the Shulchan Aruch says, that Peleg Chai, the Siman, the Lag BaOmer, is that it's pay for Purim, Lag for Lag BaOmer, and Chai, which is Chai Be'ir, that Purim and Lag BaOmer always fall out on the same day. And it's pashut what the kesher is, yayin and sod, but both chagim, just to make the Purim tangent, is that everything about Purim was tznius. Everything about Esther Amalka was the shtika of Esther Amalka, was the tzniusa of Esther Amalka, which we'll see from the Vilna Gaon, that the main mishnah of Sodas HaTorah is Safar de Tzniusa. It's the book of tznius, it's the book of intimacy, because everything about Purim is that it's completely overflowing, kosi revaya, that every time I want to try and see the vessel, every time I want to try and get to the bottom of the cup, it's always covered, it's recovered, it's recovering itself, it's constantly recovering itself, not allowing me to ever get to the essential nakuda, because that's what intimacy is. Intimacy is, and the tznius is, and secrecy, and intimacy, and the feminine quality of Esther Malka, of Malchus Kadusha, of the Malchus and Golus, is the fact that it's so tzanu, it's so hidden, that a person, the hiddenness, it's even hidden from itself. That's kavod about Bas Melech Pnima, the kavod of Esther Malka, the kavod of Purim, is that it's so pnimi that it can't be revealed b'chitzonius, and that's one of the connections.
That's why
to Lag BaOmer.
So God today is so hidden. He's so hidden, and it's so hidden from himself.
Yeah, but the tachlis is Anochi Haster Esther min haTorah minayin. Where is the remez to Esther in the Torah? It's Anochi Haster es panai ba'yamahu. So the way the Svarim tell us is that the hiddenness will be so hidden because we'll be on such a low level that we don't even know that God is hidden. But the real panemius to that is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be master the Hester. He'll show that there was never any hiddenness, because hiddenness implies the ability to reveal. There was never any hiddenness. This is just the nature of reality. This is just our interaction with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that when I hide the hiding, when I hide the coverings, I reveal that it's always been in plain sight.
And that's
the secret is always there.
That's what's going to be at the end of the days.
Who knows?
That's what's happening today. We're realizing all these new science.
Yeah, that's
quantum
could
mechanics and everything.
It could definitely be.
They're realizing that the world's all vibrations. It's all freaking.
It's all. I've read some of it. I don't know enough to.
How about supercomputers?
So nichnas yain yatsa sod. So
That's
in
right.
comes the wine, out comes the secret. So listen to what he writes here. In a kavana shehasod niskala klape chutz umeata kvar eno sod. When we talk about the revelation of a secret, pshat is not that once the secret is revealed, now everyone knows it outside. The imkain who sod mikri v'la'atzmi. Because if that was the case, then this secret that I now revealed was never an essential secret. Because if it can be expressed to other people in a way that they'll understand it, that by definition tells me what the nature of it was originally. That wasn't a real secret, it was just secret by chance, that I was hiding something from this other person. But once I revealed it, then it could be understood. But a soid atzmi means that it's essentially secret, that even when I reveal it, it's not contingent upon any secondary reasons of hiddenness, it's always hidden in its essential form. The chol davar shemeshtana, anything that changes, for example, from being hidden into being revealed, hu mikri v'lo atzmi, it's by chance and it's not be'etzim, it's not the essential nature of a thing. Ela sha'af sheyatza sod. So what's pshat? That even though sod came out, mikol makom nishar sod gamor, it remains a complete and utter secret. Ela sheyatza sod. So what is yatza sod then? What's the revelation of a secret then, if it's still hidden? Sha'af b'chutz nigla she'en giloy ela ha'elam sod v'day l'meven. So I don't think we could call ourselves mavens to this, but what he's saying is that the revelation of a secret...
Don't worry about what you say at Purim.
The revelation of a secret is the revelation that even any attempt to reveal something fails. That it's so hidden that it can never ever be expressed. That's what nichnas yain yatsa sod is. That even when it's revealed, it's still begeder sod. It's an essential secret. There's an absolute, infinite secrecy to it, because a person as a creation can never touch etzem. A person can never touch, because the etzem of everything is one. The etzem of everything is a Kadosh Baruch Hu. So if a person ever tries to understand the etzem of anything, the Gra writes it. The Gra writes in Sefer Yetzirah, in Parak Aleph Mishnah, he writes something very cool. He says that even b'chachmas hatchuna, even in math, in mathematics, that a person could break up numbers, and I hate math, but if a person could break up numbers to such an extent that there will always be more numbers to be broken up to, that even one could be broken up into an infinite amount of measurements, and that the distance between 0 and 1 is infinite. That once you start gauging something, but that's because he says that everything, even one thing, even one small thing, is built on Or Ein Sof. It's Tola Eretz Ablima. That everything is maintained upon nothingness. And we say that on Yom Kippur, that everything is maintained upon...
Isn't one a unique number that it can't be broken?
No, so I don't know.
That's why Hashem is one?
Yeah, I mean, that's
unique.
the
really
Ramban. Yeah,
Pshat.
that's the Ramban.
Hashem is one. Hashem is
Yeah, but
unique.
I think it's a similar idea that everything...
Not good.
What?
Not a good word. Meaning one can't. What happened?
I think it's good for us.
How can I busted him. He's going good until now. But how could the Gra say that one can be broken down, even if one can't be broken down?
So he's not talking. There's a difference between echad and yachad. And Ramban points that out in the beginning of Parshas Bereishis that Vayer Vayoker Yom Echad. Echad is already shaykh to the sequence of numbers, and one leads to two. But there's yachid, which is alone in its oneness, which is the oneness kavyachol that the Rambam describes in Hilchos Yesodei Torah about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that's a oneness that's indivisible. It can't be broken up because it's not. It's pashat b'tachlis apshitas. It's not comprised. It's not comprised of interacting functions. But one itself.
I'll let you go this side. I'll let you go this side.
Fine. Fine. So, Eli Wolfson. I suggest that everyone read the book Open Secret. My friend. So he writes here, and this is a running theme in all of his writings, literally in all of his writings, but he expresses it more with the Lubavitcher Rebbe. As I've argued in several previous studies, the view of secrecy promoted by Kabbalists, and in this manner, the fault line does not fail, meaning it covers itself from Rashbi all the way down, in my opinion, so fine, forget the academic stuff, go to the underline, relates to the inability to communicate the secret, which is not to be explained primarily in terms of the unworthiness of a particular recipient. It's not secret because a person is not roy to understand it, or that I can't reveal it to you because you're too low to understand it, but it's rather associated with the inherent ineffability of the truth that must be kept secret. So that's the sod of the Kabbalah. That's sod of Pnimius HaTorah, of Razin D'Oraisa. The secret is not a secret by chance. It's not a secret that's based on a social order of the Kas HaMikubalim, that they wanna create a hierarchy of knowers and non-knowers. Because that's not really a secret. That's something that's just hidden from the masses. The secrecy, the ineffability, the Pnimius, the Sod Shebasod, the Neshama of the Sod, is secret because it's ineffable, because it can never be expressed fully. And all attempts to cover up all our attempts of revealing are just a recovering. We're recovering the fact that it can never be uncovered. We're reveiling through revealing. This is everything and this is why Rashbi was crying. Rashbi was crying because he says, what am I getting myself into here? He says, Rashbi was planted in this world. Tzaddik Yisod Olam. And that's why Rabbi Abba answered to him, because the tzaddik is a person who's mukasher to the bris milah. He's a person, Yisod and Sod are one and the same. And the full tanoim of Sodas HaTorah is the Sod Hashem Li'Yoreav, which the Medrash darshans in Parshas Lech Lecha about the bris milah, because the bris milah, in a sense, is an act of revelation, which is really a hiding. It's an act of revelation to cover something up. And that's the tznius that a person has to have. That's mukusher, one and the same with the concept of Sodas HaTorah, that we reveal in order to cover. We reveal something in order to show that it must necessarily be covered. And that's the Sod Hashem Li'Yoreav. And that's the Tzaddik Yisod Olam. That's Giloi Medrash Ne'elam. That Rashbi was Megala Medrash Ne'elam. He was Megala, that which is still Ne'elam, that which is still hidden. That's the Pnimius, that's the Sod, that's one of the dargos of what Rashbi is trying to do, which is why when Rabbi Abba answers to him when Rashbi is crying this Bechia of Rabbi Akiva, when he's crying the tears of his Rebbe, when he's crying what he learned from Rabbi Akiva. And there's a Gemara in the Yerushalmi which says something incredible, that Rashbi felt, it's the Yerushalmi, I don't know where it is, that Rashbi felt, I don't know what he felt. He felt that he didn't have enough recognition, Kaviyachol, on his, whatever that means, Klape Rashbi, whatever it means, that Rashbi felt he needed to be Mashpia more, whatever it was, but he felt that there was a lack of acknowledgement. There was a lack of acknowledgement to Rashbi's Dargos. And Rabbi Akiva says to him something along the lines of Rashbi, Daicha sha'ani ubarecha makircha. It's enough that I understand you, and it's enough that your Creator understands you. And there's a hierarchy there. On the one hand, it's enough that you understand that you were makabel this, so the Torah are revealed in a process, and that this nekuda is always given over, which is the pe'el pet. Whenever you're learning a sefer of mikubalim, there's always something, there's always remazim to the fact that even though we're saying we're revealing here, there's always going to be something that needs to be revealed pel peh. There's always something that's rumbling beneath the text, that's rumbling beneath what's being revealed. And that's what Rav Chaim Vital was crying about in his Hakdama to Eitz Chaim, and that's what Rabbi Akiva was saying to Rashbi. He says, I've given over this Nakuda to you, and now you're going to give it over to your Talmidim, but at the end of the day, the only person who will ever recognize the full nature of your capabilities in this arena of understanding the secret is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because that is what you're trying to understand. That's the only real interaction there. And that's why Rabbi Abba says, Sayyid Hashem Li'Reya. Rashbi, you could be Magalit, because we're Kalim Ru'uyim. We understand why you're crying, because it will always be a sod, and that even when you reveal it to us, it will still be Medrash HaNe'elam. And
It's
that's
like Menachem Begin said that I have no, what do you say when somebody follows you? You have no inheritors, you have no followers, like king has a successor.
right.
I have no successors because I'm not a king. Meaning Rashbi wasn't a king, so he wasn't like God, so he has no successor. He had no successors because he was such a unique person that there was nobody who could follow him.
But there are. What I'm trying to say is that
Rabbi Akiva was the only person who could follow, who could succeed.
Well, Rabbi Akiva was his Rebbe. What Rabbi Akiva was telling him is that this is the nature. This is the nature of it. The nature of it is that it's not about people recognizing it. It's not about people understanding it. It's about giving over the ineffability of what you're trying to give over. It's giving over that nakuda of iyadiyah, that recognition that what you're giving over will never fully be graspable. And that's I think why we say Ashrei ha'oim demal seidecha. That one of the revelations of Lag
The only way you
BaOmer.
really learn it is by you yourself attempting to do it. You can't give it over.
You can't give it over. And
That's where the
That's part
existential
of the
nature
system.
of it comes in. Is that it's not something that you can tell to someone. It's something that you yourself must experience.
which is what Rabbi Nachman says in Torah Aleph and Sichos Aran.
Judaism in general is something that
It's very experiential.
It's experiential.
I think it's not.
Listen
you
to
must
what
engage in order
It's
to
dry and cold and.
Listen to what Rav Kook writes.
With
Rav Kook writes in Shemana Kavatzim, Mechavetz Beis. I don't have it on the Makaros. In Os Reish Mem Aleph. It's in Iris HaKodesh Chelak Aleph, in Chachmas HaKodesh. So he says, Hamuchshar lehistalklus hanister. Person who's ra'ui, a person who's prepared and able to look at things in their hidden nature. Chayhu be'emunas hanister. He lives his life in the faithfulness with the inner peacefulness of recognizing that there is something hidden. V'hagilo yatzlo hu rak his drachos kaha me'anister. And the revealed in his life is only but a weak representation of that which is hidden. It's like the iceberg. It's the iceberg mashal. That which is revealed is only a signifier to the massive amount that's hidden. Hameir bebarak haskalaso hagdola. That's revealed in his own personal mind in one sharp nikud of chachma, because it's not necessarily going to be explained. It's that darga of where a person has an intuition and he understands things on the darga of chachma, which is chachmas hakabola. He understands something, but he can't necessarily explain it. And the hidden enlightenment of secrets of Torah is specific to each and every person in his specific fashion, in his specific form. It's connected deeply to the sod of the Adam himself, to that etzem of the person himself. And it's not doubled. There's no repetition of this anywhere else in the world.
Each person has a unique revelation of the secret of
This is what the Svar mean when they say that each Jew has an akuda in the Torah. That each Jew has an os in the Torah. That's the os in the Torah.
That's Sfiras Omer. Sfiras Omer is everybody has a special.
It's Gal Einai. Rav Weinberg gave a Josh on this one. It's from the Tvar Shlomo a few years ago. That's Gal Einai v'abiyah niflaos misayosecha. That Gal Einai and Lag BaOmer abiyah niflaos is nafal os. It's the revelation of how to elevate the fallen letters. That each Jew recognizes that his letter is his own unique hidden letter. That ve'eno nimseres b'shum haga v'hasbara. And this is exactly what Rav Kook always serves as the closer, because everything he says is so packed with everything everyone else, every other Jew ever thought. Because it was a neshama kolelas, at least that's what I feel. It's impossible to reveal it. Yihiyeh lecha levadecha, may it be yours by yourself. And listen to this, v'tzadik be'emunaso, and a righteous person in his faith, shelo daika, in his faith, be'emunaso. yichya. He lives with his own personal faith. He lives with his own personal recognition of the sod. And then, and then from within that prepared place, that prepared paradise of his own personality, of his own hiddenness, then he could go and enter into the Rishus Harabim of Sodas HaTorah. Then he could go and be Mefalpel. Then he could go and work with the Kalim of Sodas HaTorah. But the first recognition is that tzaddik be'emunaso yichya, that he lives with his own emuna, he lives with his own snius, like the Vilna Gaon says in Safed Tzniusa. That at sniyim chachma, that chachma can only be revealed to those who are modest, and the modesty is the secrecy that can't even be revealed to themselves.
So you have to reckon with yourself before you reckon with the Torah. Is that what you're saying?
And that's not, Bali Musar say that all the time. Rav Yerucham Levavitz says it, Rav Wolbe says it, and that's just to bring it from a normal place. Forget about Hasidus.
We don't need the University of Purim Chabura for that.
Hasidus definitely says, that's the Torah of Purim, that a person is the Kli to the Torah, and that the person is the Torah himself. That the greatest, Rav Yerucham Levavitz says, and Rav Wolbe quotes it in his Kuntras Adam Biyakar, which is a kuntras about Rav Yerucham Levavitz. He says, "Haperish hayoter me'ula la'Torah." The greatest explanation to the Torah itself is the Adam Atzmo, is the person himself, and that's why Chazal darshan the Sicha B'Teila of Talmidei Chachamim, because the Talmid Chacham is someone who's been mahachpech himself from Torah. The whole tachlis of Torah is to become the Torah itself.
Each yid, as Rabbi Salvador used to say, every yid is a Sefer Torah within himself, unto himself.
Vada.
And it needs to be analyzed, psychoanalyzed, and darshan.
That's
Every yid has his life, his story, his mashal.
Everything is based on this. Psychoanalysis is based on this recognition that the search for the unconscious is the unending search for that which defines and that which inspires the essential nature of a human being. But at the end of the day, after all the examinations, after all the digging that Freud started and all his Talmidim started, which is rooted in Kedusha because he was a Jew, and that archaeology that he started, that dig to find the history of the human being, it's unending. It's a never-ending maze of signifiers signifying other things and shadows representing other things that are not present. And the second you try and understand something, it slips away. And that's why his first and foremost and his most important, according to many chibur, was the dream interpretations, because a dream itself is the misplacement and the displacement of ideas. That something means another thing and this thing means something else. And anytime I try and stand on the nakuda hapnimius of something, this is psychoanalysis. It's all search. Everything is built on the infinite nature of searching. So I don't even need to read this Levinas, because I'll read it because Levinas is really cool, and I've kind of fallen in love with him lately. But he speaks about this a lot, and he's been taken to town on. He describes this nature of secrecy and ineffability, and he relates it to the feminine. So Simone de Beauvoir, who was Sartre's lover, whatever she was, I don't know what she was. She was also anti-Semitic, but in her book, the second sex, I think that's what it's referred to, or the other sex, which is basically the first book that started French existential feminism. Very interesting ideas, and it's very makusher to the Shemesh and the Levana and the Malchus that's fallen. But
those 3 things, just existential feminism,
No, what she was saying. If you take it out, for me at least, it's the content itself is significant when you take it out of its vessels. I don't necessarily care about that.
Dirty.
But so she felt that this representation of Levinas of the feminine was inappropriate and just a recapitulation of the hierarchy of male over female. But he's been saved by a lot of people. So Levinas writes in Totality and Infinity, which is basically his first fundamental philosophical work, aside from his writings on Torah and his writings on the Gemara and his writings on Jewish philosophy. So in this and his other book was Otherwise Than Being. So he writes here at the end of the book, he says, voluptuosity, which is basically the voluptuous. It means that it's begging itself to be taken, something that's asking to express itself to the world. As profanation, as a revelation of something, discovers the hidden as hidden. We realize that at the end of the day, the hidden is hidden. An exceptional relation is thus accomplished in conjunction with performulat fine. The discovered does not lose its mystery in the discovery. Something that a secret, when a person discovers it, That secret doesn't lose the mystery once it's revealed. The hidden is never disclosed. It's not disclosed. The night is not dispersed. It constantly remains hidden in that. The profanation or the discovery abides in modesty. It's modest. It's always hidden within that sneus. Be it under the guise of immodesty. It may reveal itself in the sense that it seems to be saying, here I am. This is Sodas HaTorah. This is Pnimius HaTorah. Take me. Right? This is what it is. But at the end of the day, it's still modest within that immodesty. The clandestine uncovered does not acquire the status of the disclosed. It's uncovered, but it's never disclosed. It's revealed only to reveal the fact that it's being revealed by that revelation. It's still and will always be fully hidden. To discover here means to violate rather than to disclose a secret. I'm not understanding the secret. All I've done is try to get rid of the kli that's hiding that secret.
The more you reveal it, the more of secret it becomes.
Yeah, so if you go down and just to the feminine presents a face that goes beyond the face. This concept, this theoretical spiritual concept of feminine, whether it be malchus, whether it be whatever we want to interpret it as, everything it presents itself as represents something that's beyond that representation. The face of the beloved does not express the secret of eros profanes. It doesn't profane anything. There's a constant eros, just was what Freud used, the Greek mythological presence that meant yearning for something. It's a constant yearning. It's an ineffable yearning that will never be satisfied. It ceases to express, or if one prefers, it expresses only in its refusal to express. This end of discourse and of decency, this abrupt interruption of the order of presences. So what Levinas is saying is, I think what he's attempting to reveal is that the secret in its revelation maintains itself in its secret form. And I think, just to bring Levinas back up into this, because I think that he's someone who really deserves to be brought back into Kedusha, he's never been out of the Kedusha, but I think that's one of the concepts, only one of the concepts, and again, it's just a prat that's within the parts of Pnimius HaTorah, and it interacts with the need to learn Pnimius HaTorah and the need to understand Pnimius HaTorah. Again, it's Shnei HaFachim B'yachad, it's the operation of oppositions at one, and that's what creates the beauty of the parts of HaKolelos of it. And I think that's what we sing, Ashrei ha'oimdim al sadecha, that praiseworthy are those who are still able to recognize that it's your secret, Rashbi, because once we understand that it's still Rashbi's secret, we can begin to understand what the secret means for us, that it needs to be something that will always remain mine and can never be revealed to the other person.
That's precious.
Thank you.
Shkoyach.